You're welcome back. So this might be that opportunity you've been waiting for in the midst of macroeconomic headwinds. You may be able to get an opportunity to invest in infrastructure. After all, Nigeria does have a structural development gap, and you may be able to be part of it. Let's speak now with Mr. Uche Nankwaru. Mr. Uche Nankwaru, he is the fund manager and chief investment officer with United Capital. Mr. Nankwaru, thanks so much for your time. Good morning.
Thank you, Ini. Thank you for having me here.
So, I mean, the country is not smiling at this time.
Understandably
It's not
so.
smiling at this time. So we're looking for any opportunity where we can invest. And when we hear infrastructural fund and opportunities for investment, it just makes a lot of people excited. But first of all, let's talk about your company. You are an investment company, and you are able to attract investments and all of that. And you're the only one that is listed.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah, an investment company that is listed. I say congratulations on
Thank
that.
you very much.
But tell us about the infrastructure projects and the opportunities that are available to investors.
Okay, so what I will do really quickly is to speak about United Capital as a group. We're a group that have been around for about 60 years, right? We've undergone a transformation. Over the last 6 years, we have tried to do two things: diversification and growth. And diversification is across product lines, across the markets we operate in, across the counterparties we're engaging with. Now, on the growth side, we're always trying to reinvent ourselves to say, what are the new opportunities, what are the new products and services that our investors, our investing public would like to see. This was what led us to, amongst other different products, launch the United Capital Infrastructure Fund. We launched the fund in 2021, and the premise behind that fund was to say, how can we provide long-term financing for infrastructure projects? Infrastructure projects typically need you to provide capital over a longer period, sometimes 10 years, sometimes 15 years. The question was then, who is able to provide this? And so we designed this product and launched the fund into the market, and we've received quite a bit of positive reaction from the market for that.
So I see that you do transportation, energy, renewables. Why should I be interested in that? Or mostly, one expects some of these things, when you talk about infrastructure, major infrastructure, one expects it to come from the federal government. So if I have to be a part of it, am I going to wait for 10 years? Is it a toll I used to get my money? Do you understand? People are watching to say, what are the opportunities I can invest in that can be a hedge at a time when inflation numbers are galloping, you know, in the country?
And it's a fantastic way you frame it, which is to say, government does have a role, right? So why should we be worried about, why should we be inclined to support a private vehicle that is doing this? But I can give you a number of examples. All of us woke up one morning and saw that, well, there's been a split. There's some of us that are now in band A, which means we pay more for energy. It's a great thing, because it means that a private company can now supply you electricity 24/7, and you no longer have to run your diesel generators, you no longer have to stand in long fuel queues. And so when you have private companies now able to provide those services at a commercial rate, if you are invested in that, then you are earning a return at a commercial rate for those very attractive services. And so it's the same story across power, where we're invested in renewable energy, industrial infrastructure.
So individuals from the public can invest in this?
Absolutely, absolutely.
With plenty money or small money?
With small money, because we recognize that, you know, you have all sorts of investors. Some of our investors are the bigger corporates, pension funds, but then we also have smaller investors, individual investors who say, I want to participate, I want to get in, I want to be able to put my capital into something that it will be giving me a yield steady, not just for me, but also for my children over the next 10 years. And so we find that a number of investors, every time we have an offer in the market for our infrastructure fund, they would start to send in applications, and we're happy to take on that capital.
But these days where purchasing power has been hammered and beaten, and we still have, for instance, the 0.5 cyber security levy coming from the CBN, are people really going into investment? Because you would think that people just want to survive. The basics, have increased in prices.
And you're absolutely right that we have experienced people having a reduced purchasing power. But even in those situations, there is always a merit to continue to invest. And so what you can then potentially do is say, I might not have all of that money, but I can give the small I have to United Capital, and we can put it into the infrastructure fund and several of our other products that will generate a decent return.
And the security for my investment, or should I go to the NGX, I go to the stock market, I can go to the fixed income market, instead of all this infrastructure fund. You know, you don't want to wake up one day and then the company is disappear.
And it's a good way to frame it. But here's the answer to that. You want to play in the securities market, our securities business will support you. They will show you the ropes. They release regular reports every week telling you, giving you stock recommendations. If you want to play in the fixed income market, our asset management business will support you. If you want to play in, and if you want to get a product that is very, very specialized, so beyond our infrastructure fund, you say to yourself, you're a father, you're an uncle, you're a brother, you have a daughter, you have a niece, you have a wife, you want to help them grow. There's something called our Wealth for Women Fund, which is a fund that is specifically designed to empower women. So with us at United Capital, there's a whole breadth. And that's why when I spoke to our transformation, our 6-year transformation, diversification is one of the things we do.
So you are the fund manager. We're talking about infrastructure. We've been talking about the deficit in Nigeria's infrastructure for a while. We talk about PPP. I just want to get your thoughts. We've had the government introduce tax reduction and tax holiday, you know, in exchange for contribution and all of that. But it seems it's not very common or not well embraced, you know, or perhaps you want to correct that perception. I mean, the reality in the country at this time.
So again, I think that you have touched it, that the embracing of it as a principle is still building up momentum. We've had PPPs since as far back as 2005. But our history hasn't been always, they haven't been always as successful as you would like. What happened was it was in its infancy stage then, and so the market needed to learn how to execute those projects, how to contract with each other. Now, that market has matured. In my other life, I was actually working with government regulating PPP projects. So there's a lot of familiarity, myself and the team, on PPP projects. Now, as the market matures, a number of opportunities have now opened. We closed an investment on our infrastructure fund about 8-10 weeks ago. It was a PPP project between a state government and a private company who has delivered a power plant to them, and we financed that. Now, when the lights came on for that power plant was supplying electricity across the state capital. But one of the key facilities it was supplying that electricity to is a hospital. And the CMD at the hospital, he was very emotional when the lights came on, because he said, we have had equipment here that we've been unable to use because we can't power it. We can't keep it cool at the temperature it needs to stay at. We have had erratic power. And so just having a steady power supply has transformed the reality for that hospital. So that's what PPPs can do. That's what our infrastructure fund is trying to support.
But what do you think more state governments are not, you know, embracing the PPP? Even if it's just electricity, I think Nigerians are very hardworking, you know, and productive individuals, that if you give them a good environment and power, you know, a lot of people will just...
Inni, I agree with you completely.
So since you work with government, please tell us what they think about.
We're engaging with them. A lot of things have happened recently that have helped. The passage of the Electricity Act was huge. And so we're seeing a lot of catch-up. A couple of weeks ago, NERC, that's the federal regulator, has now said states can then run their own regulatory board. We're now in talks with several of these state governments, and we're getting a lot of interest from them, and we're happy to work with all of them to provide electricity as a base to build our economic growth.
Okay, please do push them to embrace it.
We certainly will.
Mr. Uchenna Okaro, Fund Manager, Chief Investment Officer with United Cap.
Thank you, Inni. Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of the markets and then head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios. Stay with us.